for his weekly visit, the one and only Ian Beckles. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's good? How's life?
It's going well, man. Feeling better. I'm feeling alive this week. Last week I was dead for 48 hours, so I wanted to come by and play some poker with y'all, but I was like, I didn't even. I wasn't here. I wasn't in the realm, man. I had the flu in the worst way.
I missed your money.
Yeah, I bet. Who won?
I mean, I took everybody's money. You know how I do it. Come on,
Yeah, man. I
you
got to
know how
bring
I
you
do it.
reality.
Come on,
So
come get some.
come on now. Did you go on Mike's show today?
I was on Mike's show today.
How'd that go?
It went well. Yeah, Gio was out. Um, and Carmen is out. So the lovely JoJo was in there. Tony Burton, his agent, was in there, and the great Johnny B was manning the board. So it was
Wow.
a star-studded event. Yeah.
Bro, it was so funny last week when he was telling you that he slept with his wife. Oh my God, that was so funny. And they put it out on social. Your face, it was hilarious, man. It's must listen to stuff, that's for sure. Levante David spoke today over at the Advent Health Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. He's coming back once again. Could you put into words what he means to this franchise? I mean, he's a surefire Ring of Honor. I don't know if he has enough of the national accolades, Ian, to be a Hall of Famer, but he really has been the model of consistency. And while he may not be of the level of a Brooks or a Sapp, I mean, man, he's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time.
I think the only downfall I have with Levante David, and there's only one, is that he plays the same position as Derek Brooks.
Right.
And that's as real as I could be. Like, as far as Buccaneer linebackers go, I'm going to give Levante David 2 behind Derek Brooks. Like,
Right.
you can't, like, listen, Derek's my people. I play with Derek. I watched Derek walk into the locker room. I saw Derek's entire, career. I hate for anybody to be compared to Derek Brooks because I'll say to them, go back. Because your guy, whoever you're comparing him to, like, once again, if you're a Derek Brooks fan, show me a play where Derek Brooks dove for an interception. The ball hits him in his chest. That's not an accident, okay?
Right.
That is brilliance. And the Buccaneers were blessed to have a bunch of brilliant, great football players on the field at the same time. And I think it's an understatement how good that defense was back in the day. But Levante David himself, I just think he's a model of excellence. I've never heard a teammate, coach, a media member say anything negative he's ever done. And that's, no, the media part to me, you know. But when you talk about a locker room and coaches going gaga over people and the respect, when you get the respect of your whole organization, he's a different dude, and he's definitely a different dude.
Ben Bredeson comes back on a 3-year deal. Did that surprise you at all? And how important is that continuity for that offensive line? I mean, you knew you were going to get 4 out of 5, but Beck, you and I, we've known each other for a while. There's been years we didn't know if there was 1 or 2 good linemen on this team. We knew that there was at least 4 guys that we were happy with, and now you're getting a guy, and I know the PFF grades didn't look great for him, but I know Tristan wanted him back. I know everybody else on that O-line wanted him back, and for Jason Light, who loves him some offensive linemen, to give him a 3-year deal, it shows that the Bucs wanted him back too. What do you like about his game, and how important is that continuity to that offensive line?
I think the one position I think would be hard to grade on Pro Football Focus would be the offensive line.
Right.
And I don't know if I've never really compared like what I think to their grades. So I'm not saying they don't know what they're talking about, but sometimes, especially the offensive line, the worth of somebody won't be able to be measured. Okay, the toughness, pushing yourself through, being acclimated to a system that whoever comes in here that wasn't going to be him had to relearn, and then
Right.
Tristan Wirfs has to relearn. So every time I played beside a new tackle, I had to relearn the tackle. So every tackle moves different. Every center moves different. So just to be the same is almost always good. Now, in this situation, last year, the Buccaneers offensive line, I don't know if they didn't put in one of the best years of an offensive line in the history of the Buccaneers. They pass protected their asses off, and they ran the football well. Look for the last time the Bucs ran the football as efficient as it did last year, and that's offensive line. Bucky was great, but it's offensive line. Bucky ain't nothing without that offensive line.
Yeah, we know how much it goes into it, right? Yeah, play calling, it's got to be the offensive lineman, and we got to obviously have a good running back to really get into those holes and do some big things. It's an exciting year for the Buccaneers because I think like you start looking at some of the pieces, you get Levante back. They need obviously to build more in the draft. What about Todd Bowles here going forward? Now that we've kind of judged him in the past of like what he's done or what he hasn't done. You and I have spoken about what people don't like or do like about him. What is a successful year going forward in 2025 for Todd Bowles? Or maybe a better question is what is there a standard that he has to reach to kind of quelch some of those naysayers? Like, does he have to make the NFC Championship game this year, Ian? Does he have to make it to the Super Bowl? What do you think?
Well, it's hard to just predict that because it's just we have to see the way the season unfolds.
Right.
There's a difference if you have Tom Brady as your quarterback and everybody's coming back and there's no injuries and you make it to the first round and get knocked out. Then it's different. We don't know how the season's going to unfold. With injuries are something that nobody can predict. And when you see teams like the Lions last year, they didn't look the same in the playoffs because they weren't the same.
But people aren't going to give Todd Bowles the same kind of rope that they gave Dan Campbell.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So, like, even if they have injuries this year, people are going to say, well, Todd didn't do this. He's not going to get graded fair or not. Like, Bowles is going to be – he's going to be graded on a completely different scale. He's not on the hot seat. I wouldn't know, but let's say they go through I just feel like it's such a unique thing that – until he builds it up to win a Super Bowl, I think there's going to be people that are going to always doubt him.
Well, that's a fact. Listen, people doubt Mike Tomlin. Okay, so isn't that a great example of how I'm not going to say coaching is relevant, but having great players is the most important thing.
Right.
Okay, because Mike Tomlin's a great coach. Like I don't want to. Mike Tomlin's record is going to be, he's going to get the most out of that. Okay, I think Todd Bowles is of the same ilk. I mean, I think if Todd Bowles has the right pieces put together, I think he's able to do it. We talked like this about Tony Dungy just before he left. Then we fired him. Then he went somewhere that was ready to win with the right quarterback and the right pieces, and he won a Super Bowl. So if you have a coach like we do in Todd Bowles that has never lost a locker room, always seems to get the most out of what he has, I don't know why everybody's in a rush to get rid of this guy. But I do agree with you, though, Jay. I think the bar, we've never gone into a season with the bar this high, other than maybe when Brady was here. But
even then, like we didn't know, right? I mean, maybe the year after they won the Super Bowl, because remember, there was no preseason, there was no offseason, there was no training camp, and they won the Super Bowl, which I still think we don't give enough credit when it comes to championships. Tom Brady came here at his age with a brand new team, with no training camp, and they won a Super Bowl. Like, that shit's nuts, man.
Well, it is, but there's everywhere that's close just needs a piece. And, listen, I'm not a big John Gruden fan. You know that, right? I'm not a big John Gruden fan. John Gruden was the piece, okay? Yeah. He was the piece. Hey, Tom Brady was the piece.
Yeah, but at least those teams were good back. Like, those teams were good, right? I mean, you had a Hall of Fame defense. You just need, like, nobody. The Bucs didn't go from like contender Super Bowl. They went from a team that wasn't even in the playoffs to the Super Bowl, which is crazy to think. And the guys they beat. Think about the guys they beat. It wasn't like they beat a bunch of schlubs across the way. They beat Breeze. They beat Rodgers. They beat Patrick Mahomes. It was just like, damn, bro. Like, there was no way you can look at that and take anything away from that Super Bowl because of how improbable and the way that they were able to win.
That being said, Jay, now I hate to toot my own horn, but I'm a tutor.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I was the one who told your boy Greeny when me and Ron interviewed him. I said, this is the perfect place for Tom Brady. All the pieces are here. Something had to make me say that. So we weren't far. We weren't far away. Like, if you took Jameis Winston, if you took 15 interceptions off of Jameis Winston, boy, this team was going to be great. And I protected and kind of backed Jameis for a long time. And the last pick he threw, I go, let me stop doing this, okay?
That's it.
It's enough. But when Tom Brady came in here and I listened to what everybody said, I was like, boy, that could be the piece. And so when it's all over, he was the piece.
And it's funny because it's 5 years to the day, I think, when Brady ended up coming here.
Wow.
Announced that he was coming here 5 years today. I remember when Mike Greenberg was on the show. You remember that?
I do remember, he shouted us out without giving us any love the next day on his show.
I know.
Some radio show in Florida, I think he said. Yeah.
Even though other people may want to take credit, it was definitely you guys that talked about it on that day. Other big news, and you sent me, wish people, can't really show everybody what we send back and forth on Instagram because God knows what kind of videos you and I send back and forth. But the one that I sent is, you keep sending me these Aaron Rodgers things. Aaron Rodgers and the Giants. I mean, my guy Tom Ponzo over there is probably freaking out too. All right, I'm gonna ask you this question, okay? And I want you to answer this completely honestly, no joke.
Okay.
If you had to pick between Aaron Rodgers and Jameis Winston, and you're a Giants fan, who do you want as your quarterback this year?
That's easy for me, Jameis Winston.
Over Aaron Rodgers?
Well, you ain't going nowhere with either one of them. I'm sorry, Tom Ponzo. I'm sorry, Jay Recher. You ain't going anywhere with either one of them, but it's going to be fun with Jameis. It is not going to be fun with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not fun. He's not fun.
Ian, the last 6 or 7 weeks of the year weren't terrible. They weren't terrible, Ian.
Okay, but I want people to go back and watch the film because I watched a lot of Jets. His statistics weren't terrible. They were scoring no points. He turned into Mike Glennon. They weren't doing anything.
Wow, you went there. You went there, Ian.
It. Just because you don't throw picks, that doesn't mean you played well, Mike Glennon.
You're calling Aaron Rodgers Mike Glennon? So you would literally take Jameis Winston in the 2025 NFL season over Aaron Rodgers for the Giants? So you're telling me that, and I'm not talking long term. I'm not talking about being a nice guy. You think if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the Giants, they would win less games than they would with Jameis Winston?
I think it's about the same.
Fair to middling.
I just don't. You think Aaron Rodgers is going to walk into a bad locker room and change it? Give me an example. Aaron Rodgers has to be in a veteran locker room. That's when he won his championship, with a veteran coach in a veteran situation. I mean, come on now. Aaron Rodgers never changed. You've never heard anybody follow Aaron Rodgers. Jameis Winston, I've heard people, they love Jameis Winston. He just throws too many damn picks. That's a big problem, though.
Oh, my gosh. So who's behind door number 3? Russell Wilson? Would you have Russell Wilson? Would you take Russell Wilson instead of one of those guys?
Yes.
Rank those 3 guys for the Giants. Russ, Jameis, Aaron Rodgers?
Jameis, Aaron Rodgers, yes. Russell didn't play that bad last year. He didn't. He really did. He's not great, but I can say he's still good. He's not great.
It's not a great options. You start looking at all these other teams with the quarterbacks, and it's like, all right, well, this is the last 3 you got. Do you think the Giants take a quarterback if they're there, Ward or Sanders?
I don't know if Sanders wants to go there. I don't know. I heard rumors he doesn't want to go there. I don't know. I hate developing and thinking that a draft's going to help you. Even when you were talking about the Bucs, the Bucs got a draft. I can name on one hand the amount of Bucs that were a difference in their rookie year in the history of the Bucs. Okay, so if you want to be good next year and you're a Buccaneer, you know what has to happen? The players that you retain have to get better.
Right.
Your defensive line has to be better. The offense line has to be better. The DBs have to make more plays. We got to punch out more. We got to get more strip sacks. We didn't get that last year. We just got to be better. But to think that rookies are going to come in here and make anybody better, and a rookie quarterback in a bad situation has never worked. It takes 3 years.
Yeah, unless you're Jaden Daniels. But even then, that situation was probably better than most, right?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels is becoming an anomaly. I don't check off on people the first year. I'm fin to check him off in the first year. That was tough all the way, like even to the end. Like I said, the Bucs are going to beat him. He's a rookie. He's in the playoffs, and he played great. The next game, I'm like, damn, this kid just doesn't care. He's different.
You know what we got to do? There's a guy on Twitter named, I think his name's Liam Mitchell. He's a
Okay,
fan in West Virginia, and he has this thing called Bucs Vault, and he has plays throughout Bucs history, and he's up
really?
to like 500. And you're in a good chunk of them from the 90s.
Okay,
Bro, there was one the other day. I want to say it was Chris Chandler or Vinny,
okay.
but you threw down, I think it was Green Bay, and you threw the guy down on the ground, and he was hurt. And the dude was like, it was, bro. And it wasn't even like you threw him on the ground. You just like yanked him. And it's almost like you pulled his shoulder out of his socket or something. And the guy was like, and it was
Really?
just like the most awkward thing. And I was like, ooh, Ian, check that guy up, bro.
I like the sound of that. I used to be a big meanie back in the day. I'm just a big teddy bear now.
We should probably do that on Wednesday. We should look up some of these videos and then have you break them down.
I'm game. I'm
That'd be
game.
fun. I want to ask you about the Shedeur Sanders thing, because we heard a couple of weeks ago from Josina Anderson that there's a person in an organization saying that Shedeur was falling down the draft boards, that he was too arrogant in his meetings, and she was trying to make it out or make it seem like it was just he felt that way and then not other people in the organization. And that the reason why they were saying that was, because he's a young black athlete, and so you kind of didn't hear anything for a couple of days. Then a guy that you and I have a lot of respect for, Trevor Sikkema, goes on Dan Patrick and said he heard that same thing from multiple people, that it wasn't just one guy, and that there was a lot of people that were talking to Shedeur Sanders like, yeah, they deal with arrogant and cocky players all the time, but there was just something different about these interviews. And the tape still doesn't like stand out. He's not like a can't miss athlete. What do you make of the Shedeur Sanders thing? Do you think it is dramatized? Because I thought it was like, all right, one person, he probably still has that, antiquated way of thinking. But for Trevor to go on Dan Patrick to say that he heard it from multiple people, I mean, I don't know if we're at the age now that like people are scared of arrogant quarterbacks. Like if he was that good, who gives a crap? Cam Newton was arrogant as hell. He was the number one overall pick. Jameis Winston, pretty arrogant guy. He was the number one overall pick. Ian, if you're that good, people are going to look the other way, right?
Well, first of all, in 2025, to hear something from multiple people means zero. Okay, because we've heard false reports from multiple people. I've gone out and put something out and it was false, unequivocally false. Listen, if I hear something on ESPN, I think it's law. They've been wrong many, 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 many times.
Right.
Okay, so to hear from a lot of people, let me say this about the draft room, Jay. The draft room itself and the interviews that are conducted, anybody that knows what happens, if any of those guys leak anything, they'll be fired immediately. So anything you hear will be from maybe somebody else's agent or
Right.
another agency. There's always biases in every. ESPN has a bias, okay? Whether like it could be Kirk Herbstreit like this quarterback, and he wants to put down Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is the biggest name to come out of football in a while because of his name and what he's done and all that kind of stuff. And nobody's ever made that much money coming up. There's going to be haters. Nobody's going to talk about the quarterback from Duke or the quarterback from Wake Forest. If they need to hate somebody, they're going to hate Shedeur Sanders because he has a long way to fall. So with Deion Sanders being your father, I don't know anybody that's a bigger character Deion Sanders is one of those guys that you got to love him or hate him. So, unfortunately, Shedeur Sanders is going to fall in that category. My problem with the media in general is a lot of guys, they get to a point where they don't like somebody and they don't even care if they play well. You see what I'm saying? Like, they have an opinion over an athlete, and then they'll say, even if he plays well, and Colin Coward, who I actually like, okay? He did that with Baker Mayfield. He needed to apologize to Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry, I had it wrong. I didn't think Baker Mayfield was a big deal. So the media is so quick to jump on somebody, and to hear you heard it from multiple sources these days, I think is nothing. Because once again, I've heard so many stories here as of late that were just completely wrong. From the word reputable source used to be ESPN, it used to be CNN, it used to be Fox News. There's no reputable source anymore. And if you're hearing it from them and it's wrong, people talking in the behind closed doors, I don't listen to anybody anymore.
So what if he does fall though, right? And that's the thing. As I understand, it's his dad, and people want to see, people may want to see him not do well because of his dad and he's brash. And at the end of the day, I still believe that you're willing to put up with any of the baggage, any of the BS, if the guy's good enough, right? Like if the guy's that good, if you honestly believe that he can lead you to a Super Bowl, you'll put up with some of that stuff. But my question is from what you've seen, is he a good enough athlete to be a top 3 pick?
I've never watched him like that. Okay, in order to say he's this and that, I don't even think I'm good enough to evaluate a quarterback. I wouldn't know what to look for. From what I've seen from him, he looks like a pretty darn good athlete, like a competitor. But let's go back to you say if he falls. I think that's just speak. I don't think anybody falls because falls from what?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we gonna fall from? Mel Kiper's list? Like, there's not a list. So did Ian Beckles fall to the 5th round? Did Tony Mayberry fall to the 4th round? Did Keith McCants fall to the 4th pick? Like, so we don't know if anybody fall. People say Aaron Rodgers fell. No, that's where he was evaluated at. You might be the best quarterback on the board, but if the next 10 teams don't need a quarterback, you may not get picked. So to me, Shedeur Sanders is not going to fall, because if somebody interviews Shedeur Sanders and thinks that he's so arrogant that he can't make it in the NFL, why would they tell anybody? They would keep that to themselves and let somebody else bring them, and then let them make the mistake. So somebody saying that Shedeur is to this or to that, to me, that's just hate. And I've never seen anything that I've heard him say or do to make him think that he's like, are you going to tell me he's full of himself? He makes $6 million a year. How much do you make? You're supposed to be full of yourself. He makes $6 million. He drives a Rolls Royce. He's full of himself. Yes, he is full of himself. His daddy's Deion Sanders. Yes, he's full of himself. Please. What's
going on at the Dignitary Cafe over there, buddy?
Bro, we hanging out. We got a concert coming up. I think you like these dudes. These dudes, Space Camp. They've been here a couple times. It's kind of reggae. Got a little hip hop reggae. Kind of a weed mushroomy type of feel to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I go like this.
That's coming on the 29th. You know how we do it here. Mm-hmm. And other than that, we're just pouring the best kratom and kava in the Bay Area. We got a couple lounges that are 420 friendly. We got a nice lounge outside, and we're working on getting food in here soon. So
really,
that's our next step, brother.
How do you do that?
Well, I don't want to toot my horn again, but I'm pretty good with the meats. And I met up with a young lady, Sandy, that has her own catering company. So she does a lot of curry dishes and stuff like that, which fit perfect with our island vibe. You know, man.
Curry goat.
Yeah, man, curry goat.
What that curry goat? When's my guy Jadakiss coming?
Nothing is locked in yet. Beanie Siegel's going to be here before that, but Jadakiss is going to probably be maybe in May. It's going to be a little while.
Oh, real quick before I let you go, somebody was asking about the Ian with the Wagyu steak and black truffles on that top. Look delicious.
Yeah, man. I mean, people ask me what's the best place to get a steak. For me, I've been a Fleming's guy forever. Now, are you going to ask me, is it because Jorge Diaz works there? Yeah. That's part of it. But before Jorge Diaz worked there, Fleming's was my spot. And it just so happens that Jorge is one of the main dudes there. And I'm there. I love Fleming's. And I had a little steak with the lump crab on it. And also the truffles shaved. It was a beautiful thing.
I want to go. I've never been to Fleming's. I got a couple gift cards. I got to go.
I got you. I got you, brother.
Yeah, let me know. Gruden was there the other day.
Yeah, whatever.
Did you ever do the cooking the meat on the stone?
Yes, we did the one time. Jorge brought over the wagyu, and it almost like disintegrates in your mouth. It's so tender, though.
It's amazing. Go check him out on all social media platforms at Ian Beckles. What is it? Ian_Beckles?
Correct.
Ian_Beckles, Terry Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Beckles and Recher podcast. We'll be back at it on a Wednesday. Beck, appreciate you, brother. Have a great rest of your week. See you Wednesday.
One love.
Yes, sir.